that spotlight's pretty cool.
Chad's going to flip you to a slide so you don't talk to a bunch of black guys.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There we go. You got something?
Oh, flip back, yeah, to the one with the 3D RV slide.
Is that one yours?
No, the one on yours with that had the 3D RV.
Okay.
Just go back one. View.
Okay.
There we go. All right.
Sweet. Well, thanks for having me. We have the RV outside for anybody who wants to go out and scope it out. It's a giant billboard. There's nothing inside, so I like to tell folks that so they don't go out and get disappointed. I brought in a bunch of gear, which is a Faro, and the drone, which is Aaron's is really pretty. I've crashed mine a bunch, and it's got a lot of grass, so I actually flip it upside down and mow the grass as I'm crashing, so it works out really well.
Grass cuttings on
Is
there
there?
too. Yeah.
All right.
I guarantee it.
All right, so when you take a look at mine, it's I flew. Pete Kelsey from Autodesk gave me some training on it, and he has this one that Aaron has, but he didn't tell me it was easier to fly. He just said, "Oh, this is a piece of cake. So why don't we fly about half a mile out there and take some pictures of those horses in this large field with grass this high?" And then I lost the signal, and it crashed from like 400 feet up. But it belongs to Robert Shear's department, which is yours too, right?
Yeah.
So he told me don't worry about crashing it. He shouldn't have said that. So getting here today was a lot of fun. If you guys think driving an RV is just for old people, the 85-year-old that you see driving down the road, I can tell you that it's an adventure, especially coming through Detroit, and you're coming in, and I've got about 12.6 to 13 foot of height on the rig, depending on how much hot air I have in me that day. And so I'm driving along, and I see signs for the overpasses, 15 feet. And as I get closer to Troy, it's 14.8, 14.6, 14.2, 14.0, and I'm thinking, man, I am not going to get to Troy. There's going to be one that says 13, and I'm going to go, oh, no. Then I'm going to take the air conditioning unit off and the satellite. So driving this thing is a constant adventure. So if you want to go around for a couple days with me and convince yourself that there's more to it than just driving a big bus, you're welcome to join me. So we've been traveling around the U.S. for a couple months. We're going to be on the road for another 6. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about what a beginner's perspective. I learn every time I listen to Aaron, occasionally Robert, I learn a ton. You'd think that I'd be an expert going out to do this, but I'm not. I'm a beginner. I don't know how many of you guys have been using scanners. So more than half of you? How many of you have done like GoPro stuff or cameras and done the photogrammetry? All right, so whether you've used Autodesk Recap or 123D Catch, the stuff's pretty easy to use. So they sent me out and gave me a bunch of gear, and I've been doing that for the last couple months. And reality computing, if you latch onto that term, it's booming. I was up in Dynamic Structures in British Columbia, and I get up there, and these guys, if you've never heard of them, they make large bridges. They make the world's biggest telescopes, and they make something that you've probably been on before. They make roller coasters for Disney, Universal, and so they're constantly creating stuff. And just to prove the point that reality computing is booming, they got a monorail project from Disney, and so Disney shipped this monorail up to them in BC from Disneyland's the California one, right? So they shipped it up from Disneyland in California, and when it got there, they open up off the rail car, they open up the monorail, and a marmot jumps out, And so they're chasing around, they're running around the planet chasing this marmot. So you just know that every creature is interested in reality computing. This marmot jumped on board because he wanted to be scanned. So they photoshopped him in, and he's driving the monorail. And so we've been seeing all kinds of interest in, call it what you will, but reality computing, the ability to capture stuff in real time. And I guess the two takeaways, if you haven't played with some of the gear, come down. This isn't a sales pitch. You can play with this one or check out the GoPro stuff, or I've got the Faro 330, which I don't actually know the difference between this one, but mine's blue. So, blue I think is cooler than black. So you can check mine out. It's in the box. What we found is people are really engaged around the idea. And people that you wouldn't even expect, obscure spots, little companies. I was at Ford yesterday. Of course, they're doing all sorts of stuff. But even the little guys are doing stuff, and they're interested. And they're not just interested in the outcome, you know, the little 3D printed object. They're interested in, how does this change my workflow? How does this allow me to create a new product? Could I become more efficient? Could I be more profitable? And we went to a museum in Sturgis, South Dakota. Has anybody ever heard of this motorcycle museum? It's like Mecca for Harley riders, even though it's not just Harleys. So we said, hey, we'll scan your facility, and you know, they've got all these vintage bikes. And at the end of it, you know, the director's, you know, you can see the little light bulb going off over her head, because she's like, what could I, you know, I could show this as my indoor Google map of the facility. You know, we scanned it for free, and she's got this file now. Whether she wants to share it or not, you know, that's up to her. But then we start brainstorming, and it's like, could you take one of the scans of the motorcycle? You know, it's a vintage bike worth, I don't know, $250,000. Could you scan that, send it out to, you know, Stratasys' Red Eye Bureau, 3D print it, and then auction that off for a fundraiser? You know, I mean, it's a nonprofit. So every place we go, somebody, you know, even if they're not interested in one part of it, they're interested in something about it and how it could change the way they do business. So if you've been messing with this already, then you know that it's changed your workflow probably, or it's opened up an opportunity. And if you haven't, I really encourage you to talk to Aaron or any of the guys here that are wearing well, maybe some of you guys are wearing shirts with badges on them too, but talk to some of these guys and check out what they're doing. And I'm happy to talk more about what we've been experiencing. We've got all sorts of crazy stories and good experiences. And we've got another 6 months to go. And I don't know, we've done about 4,000, 5,000 miles so far, and I think we've got another 20. So lots of stories. If you're making something or you've invented something and you want to talk about it, tell me about it. I'd love to hear it, because that's our goal, is to, you know, get the stories from you guys and what you're doing. So thanks for listening, and you're welcome to go out and take a picture with the large billboard. It's kind of pretty blue bus. You can't really miss it. It looks a lot like that. Thank you.